afternoon. Welcome to YP Week. I'm Nikki Archer. I'm so excited we're together, although virtually, today. Welcome to For-Eva Creative. Our amazing speaker, Eva Prettyman, will get started shortly. But first, as always, we have to review those Zoom rules. So number one, if my dogs start barking uncontrollably, let's all ignore it and pretend I'm still very professional. Please, thank you. Number two, all of your mics have been muted, mostly to save you the embarrassment of everyone hearing you warm up that Hot Pocket, but also so we can hear our awesome speaker more clearly. But that doesn't mean that we don't want you to interact and engage with us. As you can see down here, there's a Q&A box. Those questions will go to Eva, so please send her questions and she'll answer them sometime during her presentation, probably near the end. Also, we have a chat feature down there, as you can see. We want to use that chat feature. We're going to use it by posting useful links, adding to discussion, maybe just emojiing it up. Who's to say? But let's start by using that chat feature right now. So I have an icebreaker question, because I always have an icebreaker question. What is your favorite place in your home and why? So use the chat feature below and share with us what is your favorite place in your home. Mine is a big, comfy, worn-in chair by a window in the front of my house because I can do the reading, I can watch TV, I can also spy my neighbors. Just kidding about the spying. I like in a window, but I do. I am like nosy old lady watching everyone. The kitchen. Yes, love that. Peaceful on the deck. Yes, bedroom. Fireplace. Oh, it's almost that season, right? Reading, crocheting, petting the puppies, comfy bed. Oh, all the food in the kitchen and cocktails. Yes, now we're speaking my language. Patio, natural lighting, anywhere my cat will snuggle with me, I feel that. Our deck, love to sit outside and read. Yes, and turn on the fireplace when it's cool. Oh, my daughter's nursery. Oh, and the rocking chair, that's awesome. My bedroom has a great view of the bird feeders. I wake up to every morning. How many people have become bird and squirrel watchers since they've been home? Like, I definitely have. I never knew that was my jam, but apparently it is. The kitchen and comfy couch in my living room. Okay, so this is a perfect segue into our speaker. So this year, more than ever, our homes have turned into much more than a place where we sleep and eat. Although, to be perfectly honest, those are my two favorite things to do when I'm at home. So we're so excited for Eva today. Eva is a Lincoln native, and she's been a design fanatic since childhood. She's the daughter of a carpenter and an artist, and she studied design in Milan, Italy, and then lived for a decade in Greece before returning to Nebraska to found Lincoln Home and Design, a full-service interior design firm. She loves transforming spaces, working in real estate, and championing, good grief, I'm so sorry, women in business. Welcome, Eva.
Hi, thank you so much for the great intro. And thank you everybody for taking time out of your busy day to join me live to talk about my favorite subject. I do have a PowerPoint presentation to share, but I can't share it from my screen, so I may be giving some cues on like when to switch slides if they're able to share it with you guys. But kind of today what I'd like to talk to all of you about, I want to share a little bit about my background and the work that I do, but I also really want to share my thoughts on what our homes mean to us, how they make us feel, what they can do for us that can affect other areas of our lives, and then how you can develop or understand your own sense of style in relation to your home, places that you can gather inspiration for that, and finally some of the ways that you can make a big impact on your space, like easy ways. So I'm not sure that the presentation is going to load immediately. I did send it, but I know it is kind of a big file. So I'm hoping that they get it rolling soon, because this is such a visual topic that we're going to discuss today that I think having a visual aid would really be useful. If not, you're just going to have to look at me. So just to get started kind of with my background in design, as I mentioned, like as a child, I was really obsessed with design from early on. Like I would ask for my bedroom to be painted for my birthday, asked to go to pick out, new pillows. I was constantly rearranging furniture in the house, had subscriptions to like all the home magazines, because that was back then the only way that a girl from Lincoln, Nebraska would have access to all of those like extravagant homes on the coasts or abroad. And so as they mentioned, I grew up with an artist for a mom and a carpenter for a dad, and I worked alongside them growing up. And over the years, I learned so many things about, color, composition, form, and construction. And then it came as no surprise to them that I decided to study design. And at the age of 24, I did move to Milan to earn my master's, and I ended up staying in Europe for years. And I designed homes in Italy and Greece. Eventually, I started a company designing and marketing vacation properties on a Greek island. And I returned to Lincoln a while back. I began working in real estate. And then just 3 years ago, I started Lincoln Home and Design. I'm just going to check and see if the presentation came through yet.
Eva, I don't have it yet.
No words on it yet. Okay. Hopefully it's going to be sent. Let me just double check and make sure it's not stuck in my outbox or something. Sorry for the pause. Well, okay. Hopefully it'll come through. If not, it's going to be sent to all participants at the end. So you'll get to see all of the visually exciting examples that I have throughout the talk, and kind of examples of the work that I'm going to talk about right now, because I want to tell you kind of what I do. So I do a broad range of work. I stage properties for sale or spaces for events. So I work with a lot of real estate agents, and I work with some event spaces in order to, make the space more comfortable and conducive to have a really fun and amazing event. I do a lot of consultations. So if people don't necessarily want full service design, I can come in and over the course of an hour or two, give them pointers, advice in real time on what they can do with their home. But I also do full service design, which is pretty involved. And that can be from just like furnishing a home, ordering custom furnishings, all the way through to like handling really large remodels and construction projects. I also, source furniture and accessories. I have designed branding and done custom murals for local businesses as well. And I also create original art pieces. So pre-COVID, something else that I really enjoyed doing was traveling to design shows and markets. Every year I would go to Europe, Las Vegas, High Point, North Carolina, which is kind of where they manufacture most of the furniture in the States. And I would keep up with all the latest interior design trends, find the best makers and suppliers. And I would also source like art and antiques for my clients. So yeah, that gives you kind of a well-rounded picture of the stuff that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. So I want to talk about like how that relates to all of us. When we think about home, it's really a concept that right now has become central to our lives in a way that none of us could have ever expected. In the past months, we've all spent much more time than we normally would have probably at home. And it's not just a place to like recharge and sleep in the evenings. Our home is now our one safe haven. It's become our place to isolate. Many of us are using our homes in new ways. It's like our site of entertainment, our place of learning, our workspace now, sometimes the place that we exercise, or sometimes a place to quarantine or recover. So what that's doing is it's spurring people, everyday people, and the design industry in general, just to reimagine spaces. perhaps, in ways that will endure like far beyond the pandemic. People are now like really invested in redesigning their bubbles to be as like functional, beautiful, and accessible as possible. So they're creating like multifunctional spaces, looking to have like well-equipped home offices, maybe creating a variety of different outdoor areas for recreation, or even like remodeling accessory spaces like basements, garages, or attics. That's become something that a lot of people are interested in doing right now. I think it's a way, like as our lives are rapidly changing around us, we are reimagining the spaces that we live in, and we're finding new comfort there. I did see a message about the presentation. I just want to ensure I didn't miss it. Let me try again to see if I can share content directly from here. It doesn't look like it. I apologize. So back to why we are putting so much into it now. I mean, of course we are now, but like our houses have always been one of our largest expenses or assets. And so it really does make sense that we would invest care and consideration into the way those spaces are assembled around our lives and identities. Investing in your home is really investing in your well-being. Multiple studies support actually that interior design has a psychological impact on all of us. Yet many people treat interior design as an extravagance rather than a necessity. So a well-designed home can actually lower your stress levels. It can improve your mental and your physical health. And a space with objects that you curate over time and reflect your identity can create a sense of home that goes, far beyond just material comfort. And so that's something that I really look to do. But not everybody finds it really easy to envision their spaces over time. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss any messages. So it's hard for me to read and talk at the same time. Not everyone finds it easy to envision their spaces as they desire them to be, or to be able to select the right pieces over time. And when you start thinking about orchestrating a large transformation, like a remodel, there's like millions of interconnected little decisions involved, and it really can be enough to make most people scared about even getting started with something like that. But in looking at changing and developing your own style in your house, one thing I would really advise against is just identifying a singular style that you've seen on, for example, Instagram or maybe through a blogger, and then just simply plagiarizing the look. I think interiors are so much more interesting and authentic when they reflect the tastes and the experiences of the people living in them. When I design for a client, there are just a ton of questions that I ask to try to delve down into what will make the most pleasing and meaningful space for them specifically. Now, if you guys don't mind me pausing for just a second, I want to see if there is any way I can get the presentation shared with you, because I promise it'll be so much more interesting that way. So just give me one moment to try to do that.
While we wait, you guys, why don't we use our chat for one more quick thing? Eva touched on this, and this is what I was thinking too. I know that every time I've driven past a home store during this quarantine time, it's been packed. So, maybe it's coming up. We're going to see, her stuff's coming up. Well, never mind. I'm going to get rid of my fun thing and let her get to her stuff. That looks awesome.
Thank you so much. I don't know that it's transferring over with all the text or images. Doesn't quite look like it, but we'll just take a look and see. I'll just go back to just going through some of the work that I talked about so you can kind of visualize what I'm actually saying. This is, when I was explaining the work I do, like staging properties for sale or event spaces. These are renderings or drawings that I do when I do full service interior design and remodeling, kind of an example of boards and how I can show people the selections. Oh, I also do vacation rental design. I'm actually coming to you today from my Airbnb, which will be opening up for rental this fall. Here's an example of the branding and custom murals that I did for Arrive Co-working. It's a female-oriented co-working space. And that's stuff that I pulled when I went to Paris Design Week earlier this year, and the things that I kind of look at to try to get inspired, as well as sourcing art and antiques. Then I was kind of talking about the way that the pandemic has changed how we use our homes and how it's made us kind of figure out new ways to use them, and how to make it all work together, like if you're working and teaching your child or trying to work out. So I'll go back to kind of where I was, which is really talking about, investing in your home and how important that can be. But I think it's really hard, like I said, for people to figure out their own style without just picking one like modern farmhouse or mid-century modern and going with that, which is really kind of flat and doesn't reflect most people. So the things that I ask my clients when I get started is basically like I really want to understand how they want to live in and enjoy the space. Do you love cooking? Do you enjoy entertaining? Then you're probably going to want to focus more on the rooms where you're doing those things. Do you have a library? Do you have children or pets? That can really change the kind of things that you need to source in order to make them sustainable for your lifestyle. If you exercise and you need a gym in your home, it can really be worth dedicating the space that maybe like a dining room that you wouldn't invite people over, you can turn it into your gym. Another thing I look at is just kind of what influences people. What kind of music do they listen to? What kind of art do they like? And finally, like what their budget is for the space. Because you don't necessarily have to have a huge budget to make a great space. And sometimes budget constraints can just force you to be a little more creative. And sometimes you come up with something even better. So how do you start developing the style and visualizing what speaks to you? So some people say I'm a visual person, and a lot of times that may actually signify that you are not, that you can't visualize it on your own. So you need to actually see things to imagine how they work together. And that's perfectly fine. There's a lot of resources that we all have access to now to do that. Some really great sources to find inspiration online are Pinterest and Instagram. What I ask my clients to do and what you can do is start pinning and saving spaces that ignite just some kind of interest or emotion in you when you look at them. But don't stop there. Like you have to actually dissect the image down into what part of it exactly inspires you. Is it an overall feeling that it evokes? Or is there something specific? Is it the shape of a light fixture? Is it the color palette? Once you can kind of drill down and identify key elements, then you can seek out similar examples. And the algorithms, obviously, with something like Pinterest really can help you out with that. But save those examples to a folder or a board for you to reference back to. And it's also helpful to really pay attention to the elements in a room that you don't like, and make a note of those. All of this can help you just kind of develop your eye and figure out what your own style is. Another thing I ask people to think about is when they are moving through the world in general, or you look back on your experiences, can you think about or pay attention to how certain spaces make you feel? Do you enjoy like the visual stimulation of a vibrant, a space with vibrant colors and like multiple interesting objects? For example, I have a souk on one side and then like a really minimalist gallery on the other. Do you feel at peace in a minimal space with muted tones? Like just really try to start to connect your emotions to your environment and the spaces that you experience. You don't really have to look just at interiors in order to get inspired. You can look at other sources too. I like to ask people to take a look at things that they already own, purchases they've already made. That's just a great cue to what you're drawn to. Like, do you have any items that are your prized possessions? Which of them hold meaning for you or are visually stimulating for you? Maybe you have a favorite pair of shoes. If you can look at the type of things that you're attracted to and identify any sort of theme, like if you tend towards natural materials or jewel tones or things with historical significance, all of those are great clues. Another place that you can find a clue to what you like is your closet. You can, find in there examples of the colors and textures that make you feel your best. If you think about incorporating similar colors or patterns into your interior, you're probably going to like them there as well. Of course, there's like people that wear black every day, but they want to have a home that is light and bright or full of space. So just think about how you would like to feel when you're in your space. Another thing to look at is collections. Like if you are an avid collector of some sort, there's absolutely no need to like throw out the things that you love in order to have a room with a certain style. If you incorporate your collections into your space, it'll make it so much more meaningful to you, and it'll really reflect your identity and kind of give your space some soul. You can just kind of pay attention to how you group those collections. Sometimes that can be an interesting dilemma with clients of mine. Another thing to think about is if you are at all attracted to art or you like certain art styles, to kind of pay attention to those. You can visit museums and note just which works you're kind of drawn to. I really love encouraging my clients to buy original art for their homes when they can. It creates a unique space that no one else is going to have. You support artists, which is a really important thing to do. But I would just say to be careful that the art that you choose speaks, that it speaks to you in some way, and it's not just to match a certain style of decor that you may have had in mind at the beginning. Great source of inspiration for me, which I'm not able, and none of us are able to engage in right now, is travel. If you enjoy travel, I'm sure you have memories of places or interiors that have felt magical when you visited them. So you don't necessarily have to try to recreate like a Parisian cafe in your kitchen or, it's almost impossible to recreate those kind of spaces here, but you can just pull elements from those experiences and then bring those into your space. And then it will just bring you memories of the amazing experiences that you had. And there's a lot of ways to do that. You can do it through like, textures, colors on the wall. I also love shopping for things for my home when I'm traveling. So that can be a really great way to be inspired. So once you are inspired, you can kind of begin to plan how you're actually going to go about changing up your space. Since not everyone is working with a large budget, I'm going to focus on some of the more economical ways that you can do things in your space to have a really big impact. One of the first things that you can do, and I'm not so good at this one, is organizing and decluttering. This can be really difficult if, for me, you're like constantly buying things, but if you can go through your belongings in your house and really look at them, maybe KonMari them a little bit or whatever, and look and see, if they're not functional or beautiful or sentimental, you might really want to consider tossing them. Just having a clear and clean space with intentionally placed objects can make such a difference, and that costs you really nothing. Another big thing that you can do that doesn't cost too much, especially if you can do it yourself, is painting. Color can really change the entire mood of a room. It's, like I said, inexpensive to do. It's fairly easy to change if you don't love it, especially if you're just focusing on one room at a time. Another thing you can do is rearrange furniture and the decorative elements in your house. I mean, that's absolutely free. It can give you like new ideas on how to use your space. You can try grouping objects that you already own together in new ways that play with their scale or their color. It's really nice to have groupings of things that are similar colors sometimes, or to play with having an overscaled item next to a grouping of smaller ones. So if you play around with that, sometimes I even like to do little arrangements when I'm styling a property and then take a photograph. Sometimes you can like see it better through a photo than you can when you're actually looking at it. So play around with the arrangement of things. That costs nothing. I think adding foliage is a huge thing that anyone could do to make their home feel better. Plants really bring like a sense of life into a space. And if you were not born with a green thumb, there are plants out there that are easier to take care of, but there's also some really realistic faux plants that are now available. Some other ideas, you could change your lighting. That can make a big difference. Even just switching out bulbs. Sometimes I'll be in a space and I'll notice that I don't like the light. It feels harsh or cold to me. You can try changing your light bulbs out for a warmer tone, or if you feel like a space feels dark or too warm, switch it out for a brighter, clearer tone bulb, a cooler tone bulb. And a new rug can actually make a huge impact in the way a space feels. One thing I would caution you about is the size of the rug. Often people buy rugs that are just too small for the space. And there's a lot of like guides that you can find online about the size of rugs in relation to which room you're using them in. So also I want to talk about some of my favorite places to look for unique items to add to my space. Because I'm not working with, an unlimited budget myself. So, and we can't really go out shopping right now. So, and not too much anyway, but I spend a lot of time looking at Facebook Marketplace, and I have scored some of the best deals there. Obviously people go out and buy things for their spaces, and sometimes they don't work out because they weren't planning ahead or paying attention to how it was going to work. And so you can find things that are new, really expensive, pieces at a discount, or you can find really unique vintage items. You just have to act quickly if it's something really great. So I shop on Facebook Marketplace quite a bit. I also look at eBay for vintage things or really interesting finds. And Etsy is a great place to find, of course, handmade stuff. Now, if you have a bit more to spend, you're looking for something to invest in, my two favorite places to find unique pieces would be First Dibs and Cherish, which is like CHAIRISH. They have amazing, unique pieces. I mean, even if you don't have a couple grand to drop on something, you could go look at those just for inspiration and just kind of see different things that you're not seeing everywhere else. Because we all kind of get used to seeing the decor that's coming out at like Home Goods or Target. And you don't have to stick with something that simple. So finally, like if you run into issues with your space, or you feel kind of paralyzed at the thought of doing all of this on your own, I think hiring a professional can really truly be worth it. And this is not a shameless plug for me, but I know how much I help my clients and how useful it is to them. A designer can actually save you money by helping you to avoid like costly mistakes. Like I said, if you're purchasing the wrong stuff, doesn't work, and you're kind of at a loss, or you do a big DIY project that you really probably shouldn't have done on your own, that can be costly as well. So we can help save money by doing, avoiding that stuff. We usually know where to source things for the best price. And a huge thing for me is many designers have a network of trusted contractors that, and craftsmen, that they work with to ensure that work is done correctly. And I have, especially having grown up working with my dad in remodeling, I have people I've been known and have been working with for years and years that I really trust to translate my clients and my vision into reality in the perfect way. Designers can help solve problems, make decisions, and just make the whole process less stressful. It is really stressful to do remodeling, in particular construction on your home. And then we just didn't, really ensure that the results are beautiful and a true expression of you and the best thing for your lifestyle. So I do know that a lot of times working with an interior designer, I come across people all the time who tell me that they find it intimidating, or that they're not really sure how it works, or they think it's something that's like way out of their budget or just too extravagant. And so I would love to open things up to questions to the group and just see if people have questions about doing things themselves or anything I've talked about today, or questions about how it is to work with a designer, or kind of what that process is like. I'm more than happy to answer those. And then I also have, as part of, the PDF I'm sure that you guys will all get, or the PowerPoint that you'll get after the presentation, just ways that you can get in touch with me. And you can always ask me questions later on if you think of something then.
Awesome. And I think there's some coming in the box here. Can you talk about bed styling? Any tips or tricks? I'm going to stop trying to talk.
Sure. Okay. So I'm sitting in front of the bed right now, actually. And so one of the, and I style a lot of beds, especially when I'm doing, staging for properties. So I would pay attention to the headboard that you have. It kind of has to work with what you're doing. There's all different styles, but I mean, just kind of use the headboard as that initial background piece of styling the bed. Pillows. I know that I have some clients who say, my husband thinks it's ridiculous to have 15 pillows on the bed. But it honestly just looks so much better. I try to use king size pillows when I can. That really helps things feel fuller. And then I use big Euro shams, which would be like those big square blue pillows, for example. And then I layer them. And I try when I'm doing, throw pillows to use down, or like a down alternative with a really high, a good quality fill, because like a cheap little polyester fill just kind of throws off the whole thing. You need like a good quality insert in your pillow. And then at night, when you're ready to go to bed, you could have like a bench at the foot of the bed where you can put the pillows so nobody else gets annoyed. Or I have found some like great huge baskets at, you can find them, at Home Goods or wherever. And I have had one of those in the corner of the room that you can just throw the pillows in there when you go to bed.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's see.
You know what? I just talked about pillows. I should probably mention like the rest of the bed too.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I love also placing like a throw blanket across the bottom to add interest. I love like pattern sheets, but I tend to stick with more neutral quilts or like duvet covers. I love duvet covers because you can switch them out so easily and you can wash them all the time. Another thing that I love is buying a king-sized duvet or a quilt for a queen-size bed. So like trying to size up your bedding. Nothing is worse than when it's like it just stops at the first top mattress and feels a little bit too small for the bed.
I love those. I'm bringing that pillow thing. I'm reinforcing my pillow decisions.
Yes. I give you all permission to put pillows on your bed.
That actually is the question that I had. How do you work with people like people with partners or businesses or families when there's a design difference?
That's really tough. I think it's harder when you aren't working with a designer to manage those kind of disagreements. So quite often I can come in and kind of be the deciding factor, or the tiebreaker, or sometimes the bad guy. Like, people can blame it. The designer says it has to be that way, honey, sorry. So, I think that maybe setting aside, everyone does deserve to feel like it's their house. I mean, you don't want it to just reflect the style of one person, but, NASCAR posters in the living room or something are just like not going to be okay with most people. So I think setting aside a space so everyone feels like they have their space where they can truly reflect themselves, and then maybe making the common areas of the home try to be a little more neutral or inviting to your average person.
I mean, I think a tiebreaker is probably worth the cost of your services alone.
Yes, I think so too.
All right. Next question was, we are planning to convert the area over our stairs into a very small home office. Do you have any suggestions on how to maximize functionality of a small space?
Sure. I mean, it kind of depends on what kind of work you do. Most of us, though, work on like a small device or computer. I would say you definitely want to incorporate storage. I mean, if you do have objects or papers or things like that that you need to have access to while you're working, definitely incorporate that into your initial plan for the space. So don't think, and those can tend to be like some of the pricier pieces of furniture that you buy for something, but they're so worth it. I mean, if you can have things that you can put away, or then even storage where stuff is visible that you are going to be accessing all the time, that's kind of the first element that I would really look at. Secondly, I would look at lighting. You want to make sure that you're comfortable. If you do have to do Zoom calls, you want to make sure you have light coming at you from the right direction, or that, if you're one of those people who have like 6 monitors you have to work on, maybe you don't want that much natural light. So looking at that, because light can really affect the way that you work well in a space. And thirdly, I would look at your seating. A lot of people will, just grab a regular chair or stool for their office. That can work if you're not going to be working there for an extended period of time. But generally, designers put a lot of time into the ergonomics of an office chair. And so like investing in one of those is definitely worth it, even if you have to spend, a little bit more than you wanted to. It'll be worth it in the long run.
Great tips. I bet if we polled how many people have upgraded their chairs since March, I bet there's a pretty good percentage of us that have.
Yeah. After a while of sitting in a cheap chair, you're like, maybe I should level up.
Maybe I should take up yoga. Yeah. Okay. Where would you recommend looking for an affordable starter furniture for, say, someone upgrading from a futon to a sofa?
Sure. This is a little tough for me because affordable is a term that means different things for different people. So if I were upgrading and trying to get like a serious piece of furniture, I think honestly, if you can find something used, like on Facebook Marketplace, and it's clean, and you can kind of gauge the seller and the how the piece looks, because upholstered pieces are a little iffy to buy sometimes. That's the way that you can get like an actual well-made, quality built piece of furniture that's made with a hardwood frame that's going to last you for years. And so it can even be worth spending $500 or $600 for one of those pieces used, because new, it would have been in the several thousand range. So I would definitely look there first. If you are looking for something that's just a step up from, like cheap and cheerful, or, honestly, even some of the more expensive options at IKEA are not bad. The cheap ones I would avoid, but kind of their mid to more expensive range sofas, I've seen last and wear really well. And then, of course, there's a lot of big online retailers that sell. The one thing, it's hard to recommend them. They have a huge selection, but you have to remember that they are a site that sells from multiple manufacturers. So a sofa from, and they're for example, like Wayfair, Jocelyn, Maine, All Modern, those are all the same company, just branding themselves differently. And they are selling from a multitude of manufacturers. So you'll find things in all price ranges. But I can't say that once the sofas from there are going to be good because they're coming from all different places. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Oh, this is a really good question. Can I mix different metal finishes in a room?
Yes. This is something that you pretty much have to do, especially if you live in a newer construction home, because most of those are just so open. I don't know that everybody, every fixture is going to be polished nickel everywhere in the house. It's going to be hard to make that work and find those things. Plus it can get a little boring. So, you can absolutely mix metals in the same room. There's a lot that go together a little bit better than others. Obviously like gold and black can work really well together. And you can mix almost any combination. You just have to pay attention kind of to the style of the pieces. Like I wouldn't do something necessarily, although I don't know, the juxtaposition of styles can be great. I mean, it really is kind of like a case by case basis, which pieces will look good together. But if you think that they do, and it's your house, then you should put them in there.
I love that. Great answer. Okay, what is your most prized or favorite piece of furniture art? Pick your favorite child.
That is so hard. I have a lot. I've accumulated quite a bit of stuff over the years. I have a mirror that I bought on Facebook Marketplace that I'm pretty obsessed with. I'm looking at it right now. It's on the other side of the room, and it's actually in one of the pictures in my presentation. So, I can just kind of turn my screen around so you guys can see it because it's pretty amazing. It's not something everybody would love. It's huge. So I don't know if you can see the scale of it, but it is an enormous gold mirror that, a woman was selling. And I think I probably got it for just a couple $100. And something like that can retail for a couple $1,000. So it's just like one of those huge statement pieces that I know, no, I'm not going to walk into anyone else's house and find one like that. So that's something I really love. But I have a lot of vintage stuff I've collected over the years too. That's really, really important to me. So.
Do you find yourself having to find places to put all of it, or are you good at editing it out?
I can edit it out in a space, but I have storage units.
I could only imagine.
Yeah, I have multiple storage units. And that's kind of the fun thing about my job is that, I can make an excuse to buy stuff all the time because I can think that could work for a client's project later on, or I can use that for staging. So that's why I said that the, paring things down and decluttering in a room, I can do that. But as far as getting rid of objects, I always kind of have an excuse to find a possible future use for them.
Do you do a lot of like refurbing or painting things? Do you alter objects or not really?
I do. I don't have a problem with doing that. Some people are kind of afraid to. I found the perfect chandelier for over a client's bathtub the other day. It's like one of those wooden beaded ones, but it wasn't the right shade. It was gray and we really want a black one. And I was like, let's get it. I'll paint it black. And she, she's like, you'll paint it black? It's like, yes, it's just paint.
I love that. Also, that sounds like an amazing chandelier. Okay, speaking of painting, what is the best white paint color? And I assume that Jordan asked this. I assume you mean for walls. Is that right, Jordan? I'm guessing, but yes. Do you have a favorite white?
Whites are so hard for people because you would be like, oh, it's white, let's paint it white. There's about, there's hundreds, thousands of shades of white with slightly different undertones. And while there isn't like a perfect white for each space, because, if you have a room that faces a lot of trees outside, certain whites, when those windows are open, are going to turn green in the room, or read blue or cold. And it depends on like the way, the exposure that you have, which way your windows face. So it's best to really judge each color in the space. But I have a couple that I like working with quite a bit. I mean, I work with Sherwin-Williams a lot. And so pure white is kind of the most kind of true white that isn't super stark, but it's bright white. But one of my favorite whites that I use on a lot of projects, in fact, this is painted this color, it's alabaster, and it's a slightly warmer white, but it still remains pretty neutral in a space, but it just kind of takes the edge off of that like harsh, clinical way that white can feel sometimes. So those are kind of my two favorites, but then, I mean, there's I could give a list.
Awesome. Someone asked to see an example of your artwork. Do you have any of that handy?
I don't think I have any of it handy. Well, actually, I mean, back in the presentation, I did, let me see if I can share it again. Oh, I went and shared it directly from PowerPoint. Hang on. I'm definitely going to have to practice how to share presentations here. Okay. I don't think it's working for me this time to share it, but I did, like I said, the whole mural over at Arrive Co-working, and I did all the custom art in that space. I mean, it's pretty abstract, colorful stuff, and that's kind of the direction that I'll be heading. And I mean, I've been doing artwork over the years. So I just opened a huge portfolio the other day of a bunch of old stuff. And some of it I was like, oh, I want to frame this. But most of it I was like, no one's going to see this one. So, but yeah, I do mostly like really large scale abstract stuff.
That's awesome. I love that. Okay, I know we're getting close on time, so I'm going to ask the question that I want to know the answer to most, but we'll send you the rest of these questions, and if you have time to answer them, we can share the
I would love to answer all of them. So
awesome. The last one was, how do you decorate for the holidays? Tell us everything.
This is like the worst question to ask me because I'm not like a huge fan of the traditional holiday decor. I have friends that are like all about it and they deck their houses out, but I have like some really specific parameters that I look to when I'm creating holiday decorations. So I kind of veer away from like the cutesy, glittery, anything of that nature. And I really try to go towards natural elements. So for example, if you can get them, because they sell out every year really fast, I love white pumpkins for Halloween, or, just pumpkins in general, playing around with a collection of different scales of pumpkins or squashes, maybe using like pampas grass or some other dried floral pieces. I think for me, that's like the most chic way to decorate for the holidays. Then, moving on to like Christmas, I love white lights only. I try to bring actual greenery into the house so that you have that smell of, that actual smell of Christmas that's from a real plant. Although I do feel bad chopping down trees. So I don't always have a real tree. In fact, I will say that I have veered away from this all natural element look in one sense. I do have a bright pink Christmas tree that I bought for my daughter. So I think there's there's kind of times that you can do something colorful and go over the top or really glam. But in general, I like to kind of keep things toned down and using natural elements, using real things from outside. Like I've gone out and collected, like when I lived in Greece, I remember decorating, and I went out and would collect oranges and like stick cloves in them. Or, you know, when I was growing up, my mom had me sew popcorn and cranberries into garlands. So I've always kind of been a fan of the natural look when it comes to holiday stuff.
Okay, I'm ready to shop now. I'm ready to decorate. It's time. It's time. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I think we all, like, I don't know if everyone else took a page of notes, but I know I did. And you, like you mentioned, your contact information is we have it. So we'll send that out to participants. So they have it. And for everyone else, our next event is tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. We're going to do Wake and Shake. So we're going to be dancing. And what else could you want to do at 7 a.m. besides sleep? So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you so much, Eva. This was great. I loved it. All right.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you all so much.